Would you dare drive this road? $1,000,000 highway. Let me ask you something. Would you ever willingly drive on a road that hugs the edge of a mountain, with barely a shoulder and zero guardrails to stop you from plummeting straight down a 1,000-foot cliff? Because that's exactly what we're about to do. If you veer even a little off course, you could be tumbling into a freezing river below. And if you're not out of your vehicle before it hits the water, well, let's just say it might be the last drive you ever take. Crazy thing is, locals make this drive like it's a walk in the park. Some of them probably know every curve and drop blindfolded. Not that I'd recommend trying that. Our journey starts in the tiny mountain town of Ouray, Colorado, picture perfect with its old Victorian buildings and that dramatic backdrop of the San Juan Mountains. But we're not here for the postcard views. We're here to take on the most terrifying stretch of what's known as the $1,000,000 Highway. This isn't just any road. It's a 25-mile piece of U.S. Route 550 that runs between Ouray and Silverton. And while the whole drive is dramatic, it's the first 5 miles leaving Ouray that'll make your palms sweat. That's the stretch we're taking on today. Right off the bat, we're climbing. A few soft switchbacks ease you in, passing the famous Switzerland of America lookout point. Don't worry, we'll swing back to that later. But soon enough, the training wheels come off. The road narrows, the shoulder disappears, and suddenly the only thing between you and open air is a strip of paint. I've driven my share of sketchy roads, mudslides in the Pacific Northwest, icy passes in Montana. But this was different. The lack of any kind of safety buffer made every second feel like a dare. One wrong move and you're just gone. After a few minutes of that kind of tension, the kind that makes your jaw lock and your knuckles go white, I spotted a small pull-off. I parked, stretched my legs, and tried not to think about how much elevation I had gained in such a short time. The view was insane. Cascading waterfalls, snow-capped peaks. But even with all that beauty, I couldn't quite relax. Back in the car, I started climbing again. And let me tell you, the further I went, the tighter I gripped the wheel. There were moments where I swear I was holding my breath. On my right, just a couple feet away, were sheer drop-offs with no rail, no ledge, no mercy. Some areas gave you a little more room, sure. But others, one sneeze and you're a news story. You'd hit the rocks hard, then drop straight into the Uncompahgre River. A frigid plunge that wouldn't leave much to salvage. But I kept going. At that point, turning back felt just as dangerous as pressing forward. And while crawling along this cliffside, a question popped into my head. Who the heck thought this was a good place for a highway? Turns out, the $1,000,000 Highway has been around longer than you'd expect. It dates back to the early 1880s when it was carved out by a couple of pioneers named Otto Mears and Fred Walson. Originally, it was just a wagon road, meant to connect Ouray and Silverton for miners and traders. And it cost 10 grand per mile to build back then, which was a fortune. Otto wasn't running a charity either. He charged tolls to anyone using the road, which didn't go over well with the locals. Eventually, the state took it over after folks got tired paying what they called highway robbery. You can still find old photos of the toll gate. It sat right near Bear Creek Falls, one of the most breathtaking and slightly terrifying waterfalls along the route. There's even an old shot of travelers making their way through this madness by horse and wagon. Makes you wonder, which is scarier, riding a wagon on a cliff in 1890, or driving a pickup truck with a latte in your cup holder in 2025. Honestly, today might be worse. Back then, there weren't sports cars tearing around blind corners or tourists stopping in the middle of the road for selfies. People respected the road and probably feared it a little more. As for the name, $1,000,000 Highway, nobody really knows where it came from. Some folks say it's because of the views. You get a $1,000,000 vista around every bend. Others joke you'd have to pay them $1,000,000 to drive it. And there's a theory that it literally costs $1,000,000 per mile to build. Either way, the name stuck. And after driving it, I get it. At one point I pulled over again, this time to check out a golden-colored stream right near the river. Here's a fun little science fact for you. That yellowish tint in the Uncompahgre River, it comes from heavy metal deposits mixing with snowmelt. That's also why the name Uncompahgre roughly translates to dirty water in the local Ute language. After making it to the heart-pounding canyon section, I finally hit a part of the road where I could breathe a little. The drop-offs eased up, and the landscape opened into sweeping views of San Juan's. I could finally enjoy the scenery without feeling like I was on the edge of doom. The entire region is packed with mining history. Back in the late 1800s, this area was booming with gold, silver, and lead. In fact, over a 17-square-mile radius, miners pulled out millions of ounces of precious metals and left behind nearly 100 miles of underground tunnel. One of them, the Treasury Tunnel, is still visible from the highway. You can even spot the old track where miners used to ride little underground trams to their workstations. Now, this isn't the end of the road. Literally, the million-dollar highway keeps going for miles past Silverton and beyond. But with daylight fading and only a day and a half left on this trip, I decided this was the right place to turn around. On the way back down, we'll check out some abandoned mining camps, waterfalls, and maybe find a few secrets tucked into these cliffs. So buckle up, we're not done yet. Exploring abandoned mines and making out a live million-dollar highway. Coming back down the mountain, I made another quick stop because off the side of the road, tucked into the trees, I spotted not one, not two, but three old abandoned buildings. They looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. My guess? Mining relics from the area's glory days. Of course, I couldn't resist poking around a little. One building was small and simple, maybe a bunkhouse or supply shed. The second was bigger, more industrial, and there was a third little shack behind it. Time to do a little exploring carefully. First building? Yeah, no way I was walking in. That floor looked like it had collapsed under the weight of a squirrel. I tested it, super flimsy. So I did the smart thing and hopped back down before I ended up starring my own I Shouldn't Be Alive episode. There were no trespassing signs posted, and I wasn't about to push my luck. But hey, just because we can't go in doesn't mean we can't zoom in. I pointed my camera straight through one of the gaps, and who knows how deep that mine goes. It reminded me of the old SL mill I found near Area 51. Yeah, that's a wild one. I'll link that video down below. One of the other buildings was surrounded by snow-melt and water, completely flooded. I tried getting closer, stepped through what looked like solid snow, and now my left foot is wet, freezing, and deeply regretting all my life choices. Still, from a distance, you could tell this wasn't just some random shack. According to an old interpretive sign nearby, this was part of the Larson Brothers mine, purchased back in 1933. The property used to include a flotation mill, a bunkhouse, a blacksmith shop, and even a small snow shed over the mine's entrance. If that kind of history gives you chills, feel free to pause the video and read the full sign. As I kept walking around, I came across another structure, rusted out, paint peeling, with garage doors that had seen better days. Based on the design and location, I'm guessing this was a service station for trucks and equipment during the mining boom. Back in its heyday, this place was probably the heart of operations. Just up the hill, there was one last building, smaller, tucked away, and yep, you guessed it, no trespassing. Fine. I'm not trying to get arrested for peeking into an old shack, but I did zoom in again. From the outside, it kind of looked like a tiny schoolhouse, but way too small. My bet? It was tied to the service garage, maybe a tool shed or office. With that, I wrapped up my little ghost town tour and started heading back down the million-dollar highway. Coming down through the gorge was way less stressful than going up. Not being on the cliffside helped. No steering wheel death grip this time. Still, it's not a drive to take lightly. While stopped at Bear Creek Falls, I struck up a conversation with a couple who asked me how the drive had been. I told them, honestly, my heart was racing like a caffeinated squirrel at 3 a.m., but those San Juan mountain views were worth every heartbeat. They nodded, then shared that people around here drive this highway every single day, rain, shine, snow, even when it's slick with ice. But yeah, sometimes vehicles do go over the edge. It happens. According to Travel.com, over 400 people have lost their lives on this road since 1992. That stat hit me hard. Suddenly, every bend in the road felt heavier, like you're part of something bigger and more dangerous than just a road trip. You ever get that feeling like, the day's not quite done yet? Because before making the full descent, I spotted a staircase, and naturally I climbed it. Then more stairs, and more. But what I found at the top Totally worth it. Just before heading back into Ouray, I checked the weather again. The local news had warned about a storm rolling in that afternoon. And right on cue, the sky began to shift. All morning it had been blue skies and sunshine. But out of nowhere, dark clouds started forming. I barely made it back into town before the rain hit. I had just enough time to launch the drone and capture a few last clips of Cascade Falls, a stunning waterfall just outside of Ouray. The light hit it just right, like nature's final thank you before closing the curtain. Oh, and side note, if you ever find yourself in Ouray, hungry and in need of a cold one, check out Ouray Brewery. Rooftop views of the mountains, solid burgers, great vibes. Unless, of course, you got a drinking problem and tend to cause chaos wherever you go. In that case, maybe grab a sandwich and call it a day. Thanks for tagging along on this wild ride down the $1 Million Highway. Let me know in the comments if there's another road you want to tackle or if you've survived this one yourself. Drive safe, stay curious, and I'll see you on the next trip.